are we ready to
Mm-hmm.
not play poker, but watch some?
Indeed.
All
Let's do
right.
this.
Count us down, Bede.
Counting down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Go. And hopefully
speak-
it's playing. There we go.
Speaking of poker, this movie is generally credited by a lot of poker players as the reason they started playing poker. Because the poker boom, particularly here in Australia, didn't really happen until about 2005 when Joe Hasham won the World Series. So it became very prevalent in Australia. But yeah, most poker players look at this movie and it's basically starts their addiction, if you like.
Yeah. It definitely got me interested to know more about poker. That's for sure, because I didn't really know much about it, really. Just kind of the very basic stuff. I didn't really know, like, much of anything. And I think this was more the film that was like, oh, this is very interesting how this all works.
Yeah. And what Matt Damon says here, where in your first half hour at the table, if you can't spot the sucker, then you are the sucker. I've gone to Crown a few times to play poker, and within 15 minutes, I've just looked around at the table and gone, "It's me.
Yep.
I'm the sucker."
Yep. Yeah, I get that actually. There is a lot of interesting aspects to the game, and I think that's something that this film actually really gets into. And it's hard to say whether this film excuses gambling, or it's more like maybe you shouldn't do it or get started in it to begin with, because you're not always going to be that lucky.
I could definitely say,
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Bede.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I think actually the good thing about this film, and probably quite a few gambling movies, is it doesn't glorify. Like Matt Damon just doesn't win all the time. He makes a big mistake here, which is you should never as someone who does play poker, you basically build a bankroll of cash. That it's essentially what you're doing is, this is the amount of money that I'm prepared to lose to play poker. And when you build up a bankroll like that, that means 30 grand in this instance. That's a lot of money that he can afford to put in play. He might play for a weekend on 5 grand and build it. He might make more money, but he always puts more back into the bankroll so that he's always got money. It's like a buffer. And what he's doing here is he's putting his entire bankroll on the line, which
you don't do.
You don't do, no, because it's just, the fact that he's using money here for his tuition and his university and so forth, and his rent money, like, this is just not a smart play, to use an anachronism from the film.
Yeah, and, I have, I guess, a love-hate relationship with gambling, and if I'm going to gamble money in any way, my number one rule is do not, it has to be money that I can afford to lose, whether it be $5, whether it be $100, whatever. If I can't afford to lose that money, I don't gamble at all. Yeah. So, I've, played pokies, or as we, that's what we call them here in Australia for everyone else, slot machines. And you don't generally win, but if I'm doing it for whatever reason, if I can afford to live without my $20, I'll put it in. And more often than not, I don't win, but sometimes I have. That's, okay.
And the thing with pokies here in Australia, in particular Victoria, is they're everywhere. You can't get away from them. You go to a pub, more than likely there's going to be pokies there. So
yeah,
it's hard not to have gambled at some point.
Yeah, I think you get, you get drawn in because it's lights, it's sound, it's all very much on purpose. And, you know, I guess more so recently in the last maybe year and a half, I think, a lot of stuff's been coming out about the Big Crown Casino in Melbourne, and that's not looking all that great. So, gambling's doesn't have a very good name. And speaking of gambling, this week we had a big gambling event in Melbourne, the Melbourne Cup, which is a horse race. You know, everyone loves to gamble their money, and
I've never been interested in horse racing in any way at all. And one of the things that I think sucks about, because we call them pokies because it's short for poker machines, which is, as you say, slang for slot machines in the US. But the problem is that the game of poker gets swept up into that description. And it's very, very different. Like, these machines are engineered for you to lose.
Exactly.
And for you, and they're designed to addict you and create dopamine addiction and so forth. Whereas poker, traditional poker, as seen in this movie, where you're gambling for sure, but you're also, there's a lot of other skills involved in poker, in reading people, body language, that sort of thing, and there's no algorithm of a machine that's working against you. It's you versus the other person.
Yeah, and at least we know, because we'll see at parts in this game that, this is very just, how the game goes, where we see other aspects of the cheating, which never really goes down well. But
I can talk a bit about that later.
Yeah, but it is a game where you can technically cheat. But I have not played much poker, I'll say that much.
you can no longer cheat the way that the Ed Norton character in this film does.
Which we'll find out soon.
We'll cover that in a bit.
Yeah.
Just in regards to this hand where he's playing Teddy KGB here, and he's pretty confident he's got the winning hand, and it's kind of understandable because there's actually only one hand that beats him in this spot. But the mistake that he makes is Teddy puts a big bet here on the river, the last card, and it's a big bet, and as I said, there's only one hand that beats him, but it still exists. So what most poker players, like, there's actually a commentary track on this film if you buy the particular limited release Blu-ray, I think, and they all basically say what the Matt Damon character here should do is simply call. He should call a bet, which basically will cost him $15,000. But he also makes them mention that he's already got another 33,000 in chips in front of him. And that's what he's raising Teddy KGB here with. And which represents his entire bankroll.
Yeah.
Because basically, if he loses this hand by just calling, he's actually up $3,000 from where he started. He bought in for 30 grand. He's already up 33 plus what he's just bet in this hand. So he can walk away a winner.
Yeah.
But he gets greedy.
Yeah.
And
he gets cocky.
He does. And I mean, that happens to a lot of players. This is also what they would call a cooler, in so far as it's a hand where you're always going to lose. But it's up to you how much you lose. Like when he pushes all in, he risks everything.
And I think that's actually a really, this whole opening I think's really smart because he kind of describes like the game, what he's doing, but then you see like,
Yeah, you see him here, and it's like he's been punched in the gut.
Yeah, you see the reality of, being a bit of a smartass when you go to play. But again, I haven't played much poker at all.